feel like I stopped the party there early. I didn't mean to. No, mingle. Have a good time. We'll do a big mixer and everybody will just move in sections. Good evening and welcome. My name is James. I'm the lead pastor here. I probably have met every one of you, so I'm excited about that. This is a fun night for us to be together, although by the title of our meeting, it may not feel like that. This is our annual church business meeting, and that sounds so serious. And so I'm glad we started with a time of worship. And after I take care of just a little business here, honestly, we'll have opportunities to hear updates from the pastoral staff, from our financial administrator, and those things are so worthy of celebrating. But I do want to start out, as you came in, if you're a member of the church, you were handed a ballot, and then we probably broke some electioneering laws because Brenton was back there, vote Laidler 2026, and so we can't do that. But we are a church that is a Holy Spirit, elder-led type church. We operate with our leadership structure. God is at the top of our organizational chart. But we have a ministry council. These are guys who fulfill the biblical roles of elder that you see in Scripture. And in our church, by our bylaws, the congregation, the members of the congregation vote for those folks. And so what we're asking is that you look at those guys who are hoping to be ministry council people and say, do they fit the scriptural qualifications? And do you see character in these guys to be able to lead? And so what we do, we have a group, and they're listed back there. Big decisions that we have to make here at the church, we make in unanimity. Like when we're in the room together, we never pass something because 6 guys said yes and 3 guys said no, and we say, okay, you guys win. We have to be all 9 guys. Everybody has to be together. And that's really the way that we are sure we're hearing from the Holy Spirit. And so it's only happened a couple times in the time that I've been here. If we get to a spot where we're not all together, then we stop. And it takes longer to make decisions, but doggone it, I feel that's how the Holy Spirit leads us. So in that, this year we don't have any guys who are rotating off. We have a set structure, and guys can serve 3 consecutive 2-year terms. If you serve 6 years on our ministry council, you have to take a sabbatical year. All that stuff we figure out. But we don't have anybody rolling off. But I did want to invite Brenton to join our team as our ministry council team because I love Brenton and I see a future for him as a senior pastor someday, and I want him to be able to have experience being in that room and seeing how the Holy Spirit leads. So his name is on the ballot. If you grabbed one coming in, you get the opportunity to vote for him. Is he looking at me? So I'm talking about him. and so if you get a chance and you've already voted, my friends Doug McPherson and Doug Powell are back in the back, and they're going to walk around here in a little bit with some baskets. And if you didn't get a chance to turn your ballot in, you can do that. Of course, for those in the sound booth and the worship team who will probably all vote no, you can just take your ballot back. I mean, take your... This is where the electioneering is pretty strong. Just take your ballot back to Colleen and you can hand it in. But if you haven't turned your ballot in yet, again, Doug Mack's here in the middle and Doug Powell's over here on this side, and certainly turn that ballot into him. And typically we are able to tabulate ballots and just tell you how that turned out by the end of the vote. So with that kind of takes care of that from a church business standpoint. I think that's everything we needed to cover. So tonight, what I really want to do is allow you guys to hear from the pastoral staff who kind of run the ball after the ministry council sets the playing field. The ministry council does that as a Holy Spirit team, and then the pastoral staff, kind of carries out the function of ministry. And we're excited. We're super excited about the things God is doing. And so I want you to hear from some of those guys. But I made a big announcement yesterday about hopefully future plans for what God might have for us here. And I know there may be some questions on that, so I kind of want to address that before we get started. After the pastoral staff shares, after Colleen shares our financial piece, we'll have an opportunity for a little question and answer session and hopefully be able to address things. But the reality is on some of these things, we don't know a whole lot. I mean, we're going to share what we do know. We don't know everything. If you open up your Bible and start reading right at the start in Genesis 1, it says that in the beginning, the earth was what? It was dark and formless and void. And then God said, let there be light. And there was still nothing, but then you could see it. And I think that's what is going to happen tonight. We don't know a whole lot of stuff yet, but I want to let you see everything we know. And so one of the things that we've been addressing for quite some time is the growth that God keeps bringing to the church and how do we fit people in. And we're probably breaking fire code in this room right now. I'm pretty sure we're breaking it down in the basement with children's. But we don't want to turn people away from coming to be part of God's church. And so for the last couple of years, we've been kind of struggling. What do we feel God wants us to do? And we have kind of walked down a lot of paths. Should we plant churches? Should we go to the areas, maybe even beyond Genesee or Cul-de-sac, Lapway, Clarkson? Should we plant churches there? Should we move further beyond that? Should we do a simulcast church where we would just show the teaching here and maybe have a live worship? Like, we've explored that. Is that an option for us? We've talked about there are several decent buildings right here in the LC Valley that we're like, hey, should we buy the old Safeway building? Should we buy the old Kmart building and move the church there? And in those things, every time we start praying and thinking about those, we run into a bunch of roadblocks. And the thing that we continue to focus on are the enormous blessings God has given us here on this campus. And the faithfulness of the stewardship that we've had and being a debt-free church and trying to join God right here. And we keep getting led back here. And so as we're talking to these consultants that we're dealing with, they kind of agree. They walked through some of the different scenarios, and they really think we should do the very, very best we can to augment facilities here. Now, here's the problem. I don't know what that looks like. We haven't actually heard anything back from them. We've only had one initial meeting. We've got another meeting coming up March 5th, our follow-up meeting, where they'll have some plans to present to us, and we'll be able to kind of start moving forward going, I wonder what this would look like. But at the present moment, if you say, let there be light, I don't know what it's shining on. We just don't have a clear picture yet. But that's the commitment I'll make to you. When we know stuff, I will tell you stuff. Because again, part of our bylaws, if we would spend any money from a capital standpoint, that's another thing that comes to the body for a vote. And so we want to be super, super accurate about how we're doing this. We just want God to get the glory on this because he has been so faithful over the last, well, goodness, almost 11 years that Christina and I have been here, but 110 years of this church, God just continues to bless us. And we want to be in that blessing for sure. So, good night tonight to hear about the things that are happening in individual ministries. Good night to celebrate all the things that are happening from a financial standpoint. And so if you have questions, jot them down or whatever. During the presentations from the staff, pay attention. And when they're done, I will ask some questions. And if you can answer correctly, we have swag that I will throw at you. This is one of my favorite nights. Warm up my arm right now. See if I can reach that back row with some T-shirts or hats. Yeah. I did hit some, it's not a story I need to tell. I did almost take somebody's eye out one time. So we're going to be really careful about how we throw things. But so excited for you guys to be here again. Thanks for coming to be part of the church for the annual meeting. And I am going to turn the floor over to my friend Forrest, who's going to share first.
Okay. I'm live. I need this. Find the center of the stage. There we go. New technology. I got to do a mic. I got to do my notes. And I got to do the tablet. That was a joke. So I am the connections pastor here, and we do a lot of stuff at OCC, which you probably realize. But one of the best parts of my job is organizing and creating opportunities for people to get involved and get connected in the church and in the community engagement, okay? I just realized how small that print is because I can't read the back wall. Can you all see that okay? Okay, I don't need to read it then. But essentially, the heart of our ministry is creating opportunities for connection. And part of our vision is when people are asking, especially this time of year, where do I want to go with my life? Okay? And it's not just church, but we're speaking particularly to the church. But what do I want this year to look like? And who am I becoming? Who do I want to become? Am I growing closer to Jesus? And where do I need to grow? So what we attempt to do here at OCC is try to create opportunities for transformation and in utilizing our discipleship process. So we're building an Acts 2 culture. And if you recognize what that is in the early church when folks met in households rather than big church buildings, okay? And so what we're trying to do is connect people with God, connect people with their church, and connect people with their purpose. And the result is that ongoing life change in Jesus, that deep transformation. So we want to focus on being with Jesus before we do for him. And we want to start slowing down and focus on that relationship, and focus more about who we are on the inside, okay? Does that make sense? Have many of you really investigated prayer in solitude, being alone, being still, being quiet, and abiding in Jesus, okay? This is an awful busy world that we live in today. A lot of stuff going on. When you come to church, we want this to be a place to where you can slow down and work on that relationship with Jesus. So in our discipleship strategy, we do want to be very intentional in our discipleship program. We don't want to just assume that discipleship happens, because it not all the time does it. We have to encourage those steps. We want to be very specific about a plan that's going to fit the people in our church. What works in Los Angeles or Indianapolis or Atlanta, Georgia, doesn't necessarily work in Lewiston, Idaho. Okay? We want to practice experiential discipleship, actually doing discipleship together. We want discipleship to be practiced daily, and we want the model of our discipleship to be a model that can be easily repeated and multiplied. You've heard us talk about that with any of the small groups, really, but particularly with rooted groups. It's a place to plug in and get started on a discipleship pathway. So you recognize this, the four chairs. The four chairs are a different color than what you're accustomed to. But the idea here is still chair number 1 being for the unbeliever, chair number 2 being for the believer, chair 3 the worker, and chair 4 the discipleship maker. So that's the format basically that we go with, the model that we use. The method about which we go about that, the process, you could consider maybe our Pathways class for new people to OCC. You could consider that like a 101 level class. And it's dedicated for new attenders that are trying to find their direction, maybe trying to find their shape, and find direction within our family and their place within our family. You could look at a rooted group as kind of a 201, if you're familiar with those levels, 101, 201, 301, 401. But the rooted groups are that immersive discipleship experience that's designed to deepen faith and foster community and reveal purpose. You could also look at some of the other pieces of that, like a level 301 would be chair 3. Chair 3, you're actually that worker. You're teaching a class. You're facilitating a rooted group or a small group. You're leading a Bible study group. A level 401, top level, that discipleship maker in chair 4, that's when you're actually going out and making new disciples, okay, bringing people to the Lord and keeping that continuous loop going. So a few stats for 2025. I had an opportunity last summer to sit down and really look at how are our people connecting. Maybe we don't have 100 or 200 small groups, but we do groups in a different way, really. I look at it as connection points. I counted up 33 connection points, basically, within the ministry offerings that we have. So I decided rather than go through just a point by point, but just a general overview of our ministry offerings like Pathways and Rooted, which I talked about for spiritual growth. Support in care ministries like Grief Share and the Benevolence and the missions ministry that we have. Groups that we have within the men's ministry and the women's ministry and MomCo as well. MomCo happens to be more of an outreach into the community for young moms. But looking at, say, the men's ministry, They generally have got the men's breakfast going on each month other than the summertime. And there's other events that they do like movie nights and things like that. The women's ministry, actually, let me back up. Men's group is actually going to do a men's conference this April. So all you guys that have been waiting for that, it's been a few years since we did a men's conference. I remember we had 2 consecutive years where we were at the Puffer Butte Lodge at Field Springs State Park. And then some of our key leaders moved away, and it kind of fizzled for a while. So we're pretty excited about having a men's conference that the men are putting together with that, okay? In the women's ministry, those women that have kind of been plugged in, you're well aware of the Christmas event that they do, kind of a big deal. It's turned into a 2-day event. Many of the other game nights and things that they do. Some are family events. Most of them are women's events. So it gives the women a place to connect and get to know each other better that way. And lastly, the service opportunities that we have, say like First Impressions team. That's a pretty big ministry right there. Colleen heads that up for us and overall, but that's your greeters on Sunday morning, your greeters, your ushers, parking lot team, which I help put that together. So we've got lots of opportunities, even on Sunday morning and Monday evening services, for people to plug in and just be a service, because we handle a lot of people here on a Sunday morning particularly. And go. There we go. We have also developed into a hub for the community, which has been kind of interesting watching this the last few years. We've had some requests of people to come in, and at one time we had a computer, it was an online learning school is what it was. We did it in the children's department, Gem Prep. I used that for a couple years. They're no longer doing it here. I don't know if they have a spot in town that they're doing it, but they're originally out of Boise. But we fairly quickly filled the spot, and now we have a homeschooling group with Classical Conversations, which we're familiar with because that's a widespread group, Classical Conversations. My daughter has been involved in that in Spokane. So, but they need a place to get together one day a week and do large group schooling and involve the parents in some of the teaching. We also have a Fit and Fall Proof senior exercise group that lost their home at one of the Methodist churches, and they came to us, and we were able to accommodate that. They meet 3 mornings during the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't remember specifically the time, but they have got a large group. In fact, some of you actually go to attend that group here, I think, too. And then we have a couple of Al-Anon groups that independently came to us at different times and asked for space, just one room at the end of the education hallway or the community room. So we allow them space to come in and have their Al-Anon meetings, too. So kind of a community outreach, but they kind of came to us too, and we were able to do that with the facilities that we have. Some of the event highlights, senior appreciation meal. Some of you may have been involved in that, either having the meal or preparing the meal. Last year we did that in the chapel building, about filled up the room there. It was a big deal. Operation Christmas Child, most of you are familiar with that. That's usually a big event. The Women's Christmas Gala event, I mentioned that. Connection Fair, and then the baptism service in Asotin. Baptism service in Asotin continues to grow. And we're doing all that we can in the middle of summer when it's sometimes 100 degrees out. And so we've started setting up tents, and you can see that there's a pretty good grove of trees back there growing together that gives good shade, but we still have 2 big canopy tents that we have to provide shade for that. We had last year 425 people in attendance, which was more than the year before. I think we had 375 maybe. We had 29 baptisms in the river, and we're kind of in a slack water place like that, but it's really rocky in the bottom too. So that's a challenge sometime to get people far enough out to do the whole dunking thing and back out safely. And Wesley had 14 children dedicated out there. So we're going to continue doing that. That's a good thing. Facility projects, if you're aware at all, you probably noticed the new carpet in the auditorium. The other carpet was not, the adhesive didn't hold up real well, so when we moved chairs around, the corners started coming up, and we were always going back through and gluing it down and doing the carpet cleaner thing on coffee stains, not mentioning names, but yeah. We got a lot of people in here, and sometimes we have spills too. The other thing, big deal that we had going was the kitchen. We had basically a residential kitchen with residential range and stoves and ovens that didn't work and all of that. We completely gutted that room over there and brought in commercial equipment with commercial size gas range, big BTU gas stove tops, griddle, convection ovens, holding ovens. We can make food like nobody's business in there now. So we all been very happy with that. As soon as it was done, guys and gals both were chomping at the bit to get some meals out of there. So that's been a very good thing. In a nutshell, a really small nutshell, because there was a lot happened last year, but that's about it. Do you have any questions about anything that was going on or that we might be up to? That's good. There's one right there. It is scheduled. I don't recall when. It's not been scheduled, my wife says, in the office. We will have it, though. Generally, we do that in the spring. Oh, we're going to change it up a little bit and do it a little later than usual. Okay, we're planning. We're in the planning stages. We're going to do it, though. Once a year. Yep. Anybody else? Okay.
Hans.
I'll pass.
Hans has a question.
All right. Hans, my parking lot attendant. You did. I forgot that. It's coming up. That's one of the future projects in 2 weeks. We're going to start an replacement and expansion of our security cameras. And what we have found with increased number of people roaming the hallways and things, we need a better way to keep an eye on stuff happening. We really took a critical eye at the children's department. We have no cameras downstairs in any of the hallways. We have no cameras on the education wing hallways. We're deficient in the chapel. We need to fix that. We've got too many people and too many things going on in the world today that we need to be secure. There's a lot of things to that, but we'll be starting that project off here in mid-February. More cameras, better coverage, the whole deal. Thank you, Hans. Anybody else? Now I will pass the baton.
Okay. And we will have opportunities for more questions as we go. And I promise I'm not trying to buy your love, but I want to make sure you're paying attention. And so I have all this swag. And so if you can answer some questions, and I need your help on this, okay? Because it's really hard for me to see everybody at the same time, and whoever yells out first, I think that's the winner. And so give me some grace. I'm going to try really hard. I have Sour Patch Kids, I have Hershey's, and I have Reese's, and I will wrap it in a T-shirt or a hat, whichever you'd prefer, and throw this to you as close as I can, and maybe Eric will help me pass something out if I need to. But Forrest mentioned kind of a discipleship pathway that we were going through in kind of 101, 201, 301, 401 classes. What do we call our 101 class here? Was it way back in the back there? Did Kelly get it? Kelly, would you prefer a T-shirt or a hat? Shirt? And do you want Sour Patch Kids, Hershey's, or Reese's? There's no way it's going that far. I made it to Nate Smith. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Everybody went in from now on is closer. Okay, one other. We talked about the baptism service that we love having, the barbecue out there. Can you tell me how many folks got baptized? 20. Everybody's pointing over here. Jody says it's right. Did Gary get it? T-shirt or hat? T-shirt, and Sour Patch Kids, Hershey's or Reese's? It's a good call. John, you don't get to keep that. All right. You guys are in the spirit of it now. This is good. All right, so now my friend Brenton Laidler. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. This is the only Super Bowl that I'm rooting for the refs. So, yeah, that's all right. You guys can say "Go Hawks" on 3. 1, 2, 3. There you go. That's all you get. All right. So, my name is Brenton. If we have not yet met, I'm the worship pastor here. These are all the ministries that either I lead or co-lead or monitor, things like that. So just kind of letting you know what's going on if you guys are kind of curious on who to talk to if you want to be a part of or whatever. And I'm going to walk through all of these as far as what we're doing. Forrest already talked about the all-church service, so I'm probably not going to touch much on that. But that is something that Forrest and I kind of co-lead. So as far as the worship team is concerned, in 2025, I always do a virtual audition. So if anybody wants to be a part of the worship team, you can submit an application. Basically, it's an email saying, hey, I want to be a part of the worship team. And then we can go through a virtual process where you'll audition online. You'll send me a video and all that stuff. And so I had, from that process last year, we had 3 musicians and 1 technician that was added to the team. And then on kickoff weekend, we had 22 applications, and of that, we had some people that signed up and showed up for the open audition that we had here on September 25th. There were 11 auditions, and from that, we added 2 tech team members and 6 worship band members. So that was really cool. Just our team is growing. So we have, right now, there's a total of 55 volunteers. Now, I have needs and haves because I would like to, again, not have everybody serve every week or even every other week to be able to, I know some people want to do that, but to be able to give people a break, because it is a lot. I think I averaged it out. It's like 15 hours or 12 to 15 hours that a worship team member is serving on Tuesday night practice, Sunday morning worship, and then Monday night worship. So it's a lot. And so I don't want to just burn people out. And so I would like to have the needs and the haves. So audio, we're pretty good. It's a little bit harder to get onto the the board, the mixing board, and everything like that. You have to have experience. But as far as ProPresenter goes, cameras and lightings, these numbers are up from last year. And I do have some people on the worship team that is a band member. They play an instrument, but they also go back there and serve. So there's some double dipping. But this is kind of where we are. Again, these numbers are increased from last year, but there can always be more. So if you're so inclined, come see me. Here we go. Worship band. So, let me go back. So tech team, so audio, ProPresenter, cameras, lighting, those are just the different positions that you can serve on the tech team. And so that's where that is. Yeah, I think that was it. Okay, and then for the band, this is kind of what we typically have on stage. There's an acoustic, bass, drums, electric guitar, keys and piano, and then some singers. Again, this is kind of where we have quite a bit of acoustic guitarists, quite a bit of bass, all of those things. Singers, we got a lot of. And it's okay if the halves are more, even double, that's okay. We can always put 3 or 4 singers on stage. That's totally fine. But just wanted to let you guys know kind of where we are as far as what that looks like, okay? And I have used at the bottom, have used SWT to fill in gaps. That's our student worship team that we are going to talk about. But wanted to let you know that I'm not including them in those numbers, but they have led worship for us, okay? As a worship team, one of the things that's really important to us is that we don't just show up on stage and play music. even though that's what you guys see predominantly. We as a team really want to be focused on Jesus, and so we do Tuesday night devotions. That's just for us as a worship team to kind of come together, study the Word, and pray. And so this is kind of what we've studied in 2025. We went through, the three creeds and kind of walked through what that meant and what that means for just the church history, things like that. And then we walked through the book of Hebrews, James, Ephesians, Esther, and Philippians. We just read kind of a chapter a time we meet and then go through that. And that's just been such a great time of worship for us. But, we can't lead in worship if we're not worshiping ourselves. So that's a time that we as a team can worship together so we can pour out on stage. All right, now down to student worship team. That is a midweek ministry that Andrew and I kind of co-lead. He does all the teaching and lessons and all the kind of the hard stuff. I get to show up and just play with kids in musical instruments and have some fun. So currently they're leading once a month, but it's probably going to increase to 2. Heads up, guys. Probably this month or next month. And they also lead in adult services. You guys have seen them lead. They've led a couple times. They're going to continue to lead. And we're just growing our repertoire of songs. And I have a regular rotation on drums, vocals, bass, and keys, things like that. So it's really cool to just see these kids learn and grow, not only together, but just in their walk with God. And in 2025, we did not increase in the SWAT team, so I think we added 1 guitarist now that I'm thinking about it. But other than that, it didn't really grow, but nobody has aged out, so the team has not decreased. And there are some people that are aging in that have shown interest, so we'll be getting more. So that's really fun. All day in the Word is another thing that we do. I have led to where we come in here and we literally just read the Bible for, I think, 18 hours, something like that. And we fast, and it's a really cool thing. So we did that. The first event was in 2024, and then we did another one on March 1st of last year. And we had 31 overall. Some people trickled in, some people stayed. So that was really great. And then in October of the 25th of last year, we had 7 overall attendees, and we walked from Genesis to Ruth, and that was awesome. It was just a really cool, fun time. We are going to have a new event, but I'm wanting to make it more appealing and more applicable. I know sometimes just saying, hey, can you spend 18 hours on a Saturday is really hard for people. So I'm trying to figure out how we as a church can be in the Word and worshiping together in that way, but make it more, I forgot whatever the word is, inviting. Yeah, successful, sure, whatever that is. Succinct, accessible, there we go. See, Wes said it? No, Andrew said it. Not giving Wesley credit. O2 is another thing that we do. It's called Orchards Outreach. Somebody asked me a while ago, what does that mean? O2 is the symbol for oxygen, right? And so we want to be a breath of fresh air, a breath of godly air to the valley. And so that's a way that we can serve. So O2 is kind of the play on words. Orchards Outreach, it's 2 O's. Put those O's together, the oxygen, O2. There you go, chemistry. We've done 6 events in 2025. We did the Christmas lights in the park cleanup. We picked up trash. We've done the Idaho Food Bank a bunch of times. And then Christmas caroling with Pastor Andrew. So that was super fun. And so we're going to continue that. It's a great ministry. We partnered with Idaho Food Bank and done some stuff there. We've done stuff with, it's slipping my mind right now. It'll come to me. But we're just trying to be in the valley and just be his hands and feet in a tangible way and actually not do something here, but actually go out into the community and make a difference. So if you want it, Salvation Army. There you go. Who said that? That was James. There we go. It was not Wes, Salvation Army, yes. Okay. Social media is something that is important, as a church. That's kind of your first impression. A lot of people will come to the church. They'll first check us out online and see what it looks like, and then they'll walk through the doors. And so it's kind of a good first impression. Compared to 2024 YouTube, we went up 173% in total views. And we do have 127 subscribers that were added last year, but if you look at the number from last year and then add 127, it's not going to quite equal 661 because YouTube doesn't account for loss of subscriptions. So we have increased a bit, but it's kind of misleading. So I want to just let you guys know we did increase by, I think it was over 100, but I'm not quite sure that number. But anyway, but we did increase, and we now have 661 in total. Facebook, again, our views went up 210%. And then we've also added followers there, 133, with now we have 1,365 total people that are following us on Facebook. We introduced a new streaming software. For those of you that are not, tech savvy, this might be a little boring, so I'm sorry. But last year, what we were doing was we were having volunteers push buttons and do that, and sometimes there were problems and things didn't sync right, and so there's just a whole lot of like headaches, and there were certain services that some of you guys called and said, hey, I can't watch the service, something happened. And so we switched to a service called Resi, which is all automated. We just type it in, have our scheduling go, and it does it for us, and that's been a lot more reliable. And so we're able to stream. We can now send it to our website, so people can now watch on our website rather than having to go to Facebook or YouTube, but we still do YouTube and Facebook. Again, improved reliability. They do this thing where even if we lose internet connection for a temporary time, it'll continue to stream, and it'll kind of log it, and then we'll go back and fill it in. It's pretty cool. So it's helped us kind of have a consistent stream to where we're not dropping the stream at all. We average about 26 viewers per Sunday. That's across all three services, and 49% of viewers joined from outside the LC Valley. So God is doing some really cool things even online. The WB show, so our family services. If you guys are familiar, Wesley and I like to come up here on stage and make fun of each other because we love each other, but that's how we show love. So there we go. So we are having family services. We're doing it now every fifth Sunday, but I want to be very, very clear. Not every fifth Sunday will be a WB show. Okay, so there will be a family Sunday every fifth Sunday, but not every fifth Sunday will be a WB show. Does that make sense? So what we're going to do is we're going to have a service where the whole family just is together. Okay, and so it'll look like a normal service, but we're going to have kids in here, teens in here, everybody, a family, the whole church family is going to be worshiping together through the entire service. That Wesley and I and Andrew and James and Forrest, we're all passionate about wanting to make sure that people have a lasting relationship with God. And sometimes if there's a kind of that church and this church mentality, that can kind of, when they leave the home, it's kind of the things like, I don't belong there. And so we're wanting to kind of incorporate that and say, no, everybody belongs here. We're all a part of the church family. And so this is a way that we can do that. So every fifth Sunday, that's 3:29, 5:31, 8:30, and 11:29. And the highlighted ones are the ones that are going to be the WB show. We're going to do 3 services this year as a WB show. One of them is not a fifth Sunday. That's the end of this month, 22nd and 23rd, and then May 31st and June 1st, and then November 29th and 30th. Heads up, we're not going to do the WB Ruin. Wesley and I are cooking up a new series that we're going to do, and we'll introduce that at the end of February. Okay? So there you go. Forrest took questions, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to turn it over to James.
Questions for Brenton. We'll get them later. Okay, I hope you're paying attention. We had some fun.
Oh, no. Okay. Thank you. Where's the podcast? Oh, here we go. OC podcast. It's hard to read sometimes, guys. So we do have a podcast that we stream, we have episodes every Sunday. We post it on Monday, but it's the sermons. And then we also do a midweek devotion called Midpoint. And so that's available. We post that typically on Wednesdays. We had a total of 4,000 plays in 2025, which is awesome. And then an average of 23 streams per episode, which is awesome. But that also means that not everybody here is listening to Midpoint. It is great that we get to have conversations just through the sermon and kind of talk about what was left out, or even kind of where God takes a conversation between. Typically, it's between us two, James and one of us on staff. And we just kind of talk through the service, what God has on our heart, even answering questions from you guys as we're talking through all that. We had followers on Spotify. I can't track the Apple or Google sites. It doesn't. Our platform doesn't allow us to do that. And so, but on Spotify, we went up 38 in 2025. Just a breakdown of the podcast listeners: 75%-ish are female and 22% are male. And then typically people will use Spotify, but then they'll also use Apple and then other platforms. Thank you, Jody. And that's it.
I forgot to mention this earlier. I'm throwing out one size t-shirt, but I have all sizes of t-shirts here. But I'm not going to ask you your size because that might be weird. So if you get a shirt and you want to swap it at the end, you can come up. You can't swap the candy, but you can swap the shirts. So Brenton mentioned how many total worship volunteers. Darshawn wins easily. I heard that one quickly. Shirt or hat? Hat and candy? I can make this. What? Oh, but spoke too soon. One of those things was heavier than the other. Brenton talking about physics. Okay, one other. We have a service that we do called O2. What does O2 stand for? It's Orchards Outreach. Thank you. But I heard a young lady back here who I think got it. Yes. Hat or shirt? Let's do hat. I can't throw it that far. And Reese's, Hershey's, or Sour Patch? Lovely. No. Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. Yay. All right. And now it's time for my friend Wesley. Time for my friend Andrew. Doesn't matter to me.
I can go. I don't know how to change this. Up. No. There we go. All right. Sweet. All right. So yesterday, in James's message yesterday, James said not to get too caught up in the numbers, and then so anyway, all right, here we go. Into the numbers. So for those of you guys that don't know, I do love numbers. I like data. I like spreadsheets. For me, I just think God is a God of order, and we can see what God is doing through the numbers. So, like James said, truly, don't get too caught up in the numbers. I pray discernment that you don't get too caught up in it. But one of the trends you're going to see is growth. Growth all the way through. So this is total children's that attended for the year. This is all events that we track. So this doesn't include like Easter egg hunt and carnival. Sunday mornings, Awana, VBS, Momco, Moms Groups. I think even like the date night is in this. So this year we saw almost 600 unique kids. That's 600 different kids through the door. Obviously, some of them attended more than once. But we saw 600 unique kids through the door. The yellow bar is how many visiting children we had. So that's new basically to our system this year. So the number of visitors we have every year also continues to increase. And then finally, the smaller bar over on the side is how many volunteers served for the year. So 229 volunteers, and about 133 of them were consistent volunteers, serving 10 times or more. So now let's get into the go. Here we go. So now we're looking at just Sundays. So this is just Sunday mornings. Again, the trend is continued growth. 389 kids for the year, 161 new kids, and the 112 is kids that only visited 3 times or less. So I kind of view them as they just didn't stick around for whatever reason. But one of the cool things about children's numbers is that because of security reasons and needing to be able to contact being able to contact parents, we gather a lot of information for kids just to be able to reach parents. And we also track which kids we have for safety reasons to make sure that in the event of an emergency, we know which kids are with us. But it is a kind of a snapshot of the church as a whole because it's probably the most accurate set of people that we can actually track. And so behind each one of these kids is a family, ultimately. And so we continue to have a lot of visitors every single year. Visitors are tapering off a little bit. Some of that, though, may just because as our system gets older, people are already in our system. So people that maybe attended 6 years ago and now returned after 6 years are no longer going to show up in that. But the throughput of kids going through children's ministry is beginning to increase again, which I'll talk about that here in a minute. But we're seeing a lot of visitors, and not as many of them are sticking around like they were. So the blue graph is the same graph on Sunday mornings. This is something I think is one of the biggest things we have improved on here at Orchards. A few years ago, we had a consultant come and help us try to capture families, because while we had a lot of families coming through our doors, they weren't staying. And so these numbers down here are how many kids have come 50% of the time or more, and then the green is 66% of the time or more. So while we were seeing a lot of kids and families coming through the door, they weren't coming very often, maybe just once or twice or just a few times. And so on paper, as James mentioned yesterday, on paper the numbers looked okay, but truly we weren't discipling very many of them. So after the consultant, we started having kids in the worship service, having kids join in the body and be doing worship with their families. But also, we improved the First Impressions team because our children's area is pretty hidden and is kind of difficult to get to. It is part of our space, but we can overcome that with great people, and we have. Our First Impressions team, as Forrest mentioned, has been greatly improved. And immediately after we made those changes, we see a huge increase in consistency of kids and families. And I think that is one of the greatest things we have done in the last few years, because we want to be able to actually equip families and disciple kids well. And those the consistency numbers have increased a lot. And so even in our growth of how many kids have attended per year, part of that is just from consistency, which is a good thing. Overlaid over the top is how many volunteers we have. Volunteers are not increasing at the same level as kids are. Our number of consistent volunteers are increasing a little bit, which is good. But as we continue to see more kids, we need more people to be able to meet those needs. The gap in between the consistent volunteers, which is the orange, I realize it's hard to see, and the red, I like that gap to be a little smaller, just because more consistent volunteers means that we're being able to relationally connect to kids more, but we do need the helpers as well that serve once a month, twice a month, but we like to have somebody in each classroom that kids can recognize week to week. So average Sunday attendance, we see about 80 kids per Sunday this year. Again, this has continued to increase. The average volunteers has continued to increase. This is a graph of average attendance by service, so I don't have them labeled. But essentially, it's 9 and 10:30 all the way through. But this is where it gets really unique, because this year we added a third service on Sunday, and we created a perfect storm where everybody went to one service. And yeah, it's in. Even if you look at the 8 o'clock and the 11:30 service, they have not even reached where we were in 2021 in attendance. It takes about, I think it's like 21 volunteers to do the 9:45 service, and it only takes 15 to do all of the other 3 services combined. And so meeting those kids and those families at one service has become a big challenge, which I'm not going to be a broken record and repeat that, but it causes parking problems and space issues in here. But we're going to continue to hold to having kids be part of worship, families being together. All of that is going to continue, but that doesn't mean that we're not seeing some of the stress from that. And I think that graph clearly showed why there is stress there. All right. Otherwise, VBS is continuing to increase. VBS is getting close to the capacity of what we can have in this building. It'll probably begin to taper off just because we're at capacity. Awana is the same story. While Awana shows the same average number of kids this year, our peaks have been way higher. So our consistency's down, but this year in Awana, we had a night that had 167 kids, I believe, which tied VBS. So our peaks have been very high this year in Awana. Carnival and Easter egg hunts also continuing to increase. The Easter egg hunt saw a little bit of dip this year. Fortunately, I don't know, on Easter, depending on where it lands in the month, I think greatly affects attendance. If it's later in April, there's a lot more competition for other things, stuff starting up, end of school year, stuff begins. But it's back to being early again this year. So, looking ahead to this year, we're going to continue trying to meet kids and families that are coming to the door. God is clearly bringing them. We're going to continue to be ready. We're going to continue to build relationships with as many of them as we can and use those relationships to better share the gospel. None of that is changing. Awana is going to continue to be a program where we can better disciple kids and build relationships. In recruiting, we're going to continue to bring generations together. I think it is important for generations all to be together for us to for all generations to appreciate down as well as up. We talked about the SAMs a little bit as well, of kids being able to serve in that. We're also this year going to, I have the opportunity to have more help this year because the teams are getting very difficult for me to be able to manage on my own. It is becoming very difficult, and it is beginning to create a self-fulfilling prophecy for me on Sunday of not being able to recruit if I'm serving all the time. And not being able to expand in some of the family ministry stuff that we are doing. And so we brought Kaylin on. She works Sundays and then a couple of days a week to be able to help me with Sundays and some of the managing of staff on Sunday mornings. We're going to continue to recruit, bring on consistent volunteers. We need all types of volunteers, but there's no replacement in relationships for time. There has to be time in relationships. There's just no question about that. Being able to show up in a kid's life is super important. And so we're going to continue to try to increase consistency in volunteers. We're going to be worshiping together, like I said. And then finally, we're going to have opportunities, more and more opportunities for us to be able to help families be the primary spiritual leaders of their household, because that is very important. We're going to be doing that through WB shows, trying to encourage families to be together, the family Sundays, also the family classes that we have downstairs, and then opportunities for families just to come alongside each other and enjoy the accountability of being alongside other families. I got through that as quick as I can. Growth. Growth is the theme. Thank you, guys.
As an added bonus, if you came in to the meeting tonight and voted, you were also enrolled to help in children's ministry. So Wesley will be contacting you. Don't think we can make that work that quickly, but that is an area. And again, one of the things, as we mentioned yesterday, one of the things that you guys can clearly see, issues here in the auditorium, issues in the parking lot. Maybe you don't see some of the issues that are happening because of just the way God has expanded children's and family ministry. It's so exciting. It's so encouraging to see the kids down there and know that they are studying God's word, know that leaders are pouring into them. So if you have any inkling, any desire to serve in that area, be praying about that. That's a fun one. Wesley mentioned capacity for VBS on campus is how many kids? It was back in the back. And it was near Lacey. Did you see who said it? Was it Lacey? Was it Haley? You can only win once. Yeah, was it Avery? Okay, Avery, do you want a shirt or a hat? Hat. And do you want Sour Patch, Hershey's, or Reese's? And you're going to carry that back to Avery. Yay! Look at Wes, double duty. Here's a fun one. Average kids Sunday attendance? 80. Was that Vern? Was that Scott? Scott, hat, shirt? Hat. I think I can get this to you. Bruce is watching out. I felt good about that. This is the wild card. I'm going to open it up. Let's see what happens. Most of that was Scott. That was a bad throw. Okay, and now my friend, Pastor Andrew.
Okay. Well, good evening. It's good to see everybody. I am not sure exactly what to do with this, but let's make it work here. And if you were concerned that I was waving at you, I was actually waving at my daughter, so sorry. My daughter got up in a chair and decided to wave at me. So student ministries it's been a blast of a year. We've been just seeing growth. I think that's the summary of all this is just growth. And we've seen God do incredible things. Student ministries is made up of middle school, high school, and then it's also made up of our college young adult, which are here tonight, some of our guys. And then they meet on Monday nights, and that's also including our Sunday morning youth Bible study. And that's the one that meets during the 8 a.m. service. And so I kind of just want to walk through a little bit of those and what's going on, and where we're seeing growth and where we see needs, and I want to walk through that a little bit. And so, go ahead. So, youth ministry is 6th through 12th grade, and that meets Wednesday nights. We made this last year, the big move, to go from 2 nights, high school being on Wednesday, middle school being on Thursday. We made the big move to push it all to Wednesday. A lot of that, there's a lot that went into that. Part of that was trying to set up Awana well for continued growth. Some of that as well was trying to get all my leaders onto one night, trying to get kids all on one night, trying to be able to do ministry for them across the board. We are still having them kind of in 2 separate locations. And so to start the night, they start out in 2 separate locations. Middle school starts in here. High school starts over in the chapel. They go through snack. They play games separately. And then they will move over here, everyone into this building, and we have worship. We'll play usually a stage game on stage, and then we will do lesson all together, and then we literally take them and split them all over campus for small groups, and that's been a big thing. We have small groups here, just literally in the other building. Oh, we're shoving them everywhere we can. And so that's been really cool to see. God is doing just incredible things there. We're seeing about 60 to 70 kids. That's middle school through high school, 6th through 12th grade. Youth ministry is one of those that one week we'll have 50. One week we'll have almost 80. Like, it's just, that's youth ministry. And youth ministry is up and down with sports and hunting and family trips, and it's all over the place. And so we're very thankful for what God is doing there. I think the big thing with that is that we're seeing kids grow spiritually. We see kids investing in their relationship with God. We see kids connecting with one another. We also see kids connecting with their leaders. And that's such a mark for me of growth, is when I see a kid willingly connect with a leader and invest in that relationship with the leader. That's a sign of the kid wanting to plug in and wanting to be here and wanting to be a part of what's happening. And so we also see kids bringing friends. I would say that we're seeing anywhere from probably 3 to 10 new kids that will come at any given week. And they are often coming with friends. We every once in a while will have a brand new family in that's not connected. Most often it's a kid bringing a friend from a sports team in, and then they're plugging in that way. And so that's been huge, and it's really cool to see that. One of the marks that I am so excited about is our youth leaders. So I have right around 25 youth leaders right now, and that's That's incredible, and that's such a blessing. A lot of those youth leaders are coming from our college ministry. Part of the reason I have so many is that a big part of what I want is I want every single small group to have at least 2 youth leaders in it. And the heart behind that is wanting to give kids, some kids will connect with youth leader A and some kids will connect with youth leader B. It also gives the ability that when one of my youth leaders are gone, there's still somebody there. It's also protection for youth leaders. It's having 2 people in the room with students. There's a lot of wisdom in that. And so that's been a big part of what God is doing, is bringing leaders. I am continuing to look for new leaders as we're growing because I need to keep splitting off small groups. We have, I think, like 10th grade girls have 2 separate small groups for 10th grade girls because it's growing so much. And so God's doing some really cool stuff there, and we're really excited. So go ahead and go to the next one. We are starting here this Wednesday. Every February, we do a 4-week-long series through dating, marriage, relationships, and yes, we talk about sex with the students. And so we're calling this series this year Real Love, and really asking the question, what is real love? What does God say real love is? Are we focusing on that relationship with God and letting that relationship with God dictate how we interact with others, how we interact romantically, but also platonically, and dictating that out? And so we're starting that on Wednesday. That's always a fun series to walk through with a bunch of middle school and high schoolers, and getting them to process through things like that and watching their eyes grow wide when I say sex is always fun. And so that will start this Wednesday. Please be praying for us as we walk through that. That's always this series that causes me it causes me excitement, but it also causes me some anxiety as I want to teach it well. I want to walk them through what is biblical, relationships and the idea that God has for that. And so please be praying for us. Check in, ask me questions, see how it's going. I'll happily talk you through it. So go ahead and go to the next one. Youth Bible study is at the 8 a.m. service. We made that change last year, I think, right? We made the change when we went to multiple services. It is going well. 8 a.m. is early for students, and we are continuing to have students that show up without even their parents. They're driving themselves and getting here, which is always a mark of that they want to be invested, but keeping them awake is always fun. And so we feed them donuts, and they're a part of it, and so that's been a huge blessing. Go ahead and go to the we have 20 to 30 students that plug into that. We just started a couple weeks ago a series through the book of Job. The youth Bible study, we take a real long form, week by week, verse by verse, walk through a book in the Bible. We just finished Matthew, and now we're working through the book of Job and really asking the question, how do we trust God in chaos? So that's been really good as well. Young adult college ministry, that is our Monday night ministry that meets. Some of them are here. And for a while, that was held at Melinda My House. We've moved that here to church, and that is now here at church for the past, about a year now we've been here at church, and that's going well. We've seen some up and down growth with that. We're continuing to see new students come, and we're looking at about 30 to 40 students that attend that almost on any given week. And most of those students are coming from LCSC. We have students that are driving down from Moscow and from Pullman that come down for Sunday morning. They drive back down for Monday. Some of those students will then drive back down for midweek stuff or Awana or youth ministry and very plugged in. I just had a conversation with some of our college students tonight about membership and what does that look like. And so please keep praying for our college students as they're here, they're part of it. They are wanting to be a part of what God's doing at this church, and it's really exciting. Majority of our students will attend a midweek service. A weekend service, and will come during the weekend as well. We have some that attend other churches and come to Monday night, but most attend our weekend services. Multiple coming with brand new friends, and that's been a big part of what's going on. We just started last week a series called The Engagement Project. It's a video-driven series. If you've heard of the Truth Project, it's a the sister video series of the Truth Project, and so we're walking through that with them and really talking about what does it look like to be engaged in this world? How do we put our theology to practice? And so, really, really good series. Looking forward to where that's going to go. And then we're going to talk about kind of coming up. What are we looking at? Student ministries, but also church-wide. I kind of have my hands pretty deep in Easter egg hunt, and that's coming up on April 4th, I believe. Yes, April 4th is Easter egg hunt. Fall Youth Festival that we do each year, that will come up, Oh, sorry, I thought I heard something. Fall Youth Festival will be October 28th. That's for our middle school and high school students. We do that right around Halloween. We have our summer youth camp this year, and that will come up July 21st through 25th. We are moving from 4 days to 5 days this year. And we will run, it's a still where we send them home at night, and they show back up the next day, and have kids a part of that. We fly out a speaker. I'll talk about the series that we're going to do in just a second. And then Forrest and I are going to get to do a marriage class starting here in just a couple weeks that we'll team teach with our wives. And that's been a huge heart of my wife and I, is to be a part of parenting stuff and marriage classes and be able to be equipping the church in that way. And so excited for that. And then I'll talk camp this year. We are going to do a series that is going to look at the life of Peter. And you can go and reveal that. We are calling it Unworthy. And so we're going to look at the life of Peter, walk through 5 days, looking at his life, looking at just the highs and lows, the way that he makes mistakes, but just the redemption that follows. And Peter's life is just remarkable. And so walking students through that's going to be really cool, a cool thing. So please be praying for us in July. I'm looking forward to that. They'll be here on site again 5 days this year. So I think that's all I got. I'm going to hand that back to you.
Want to take this opportunity to announce the newest ministry council member at Orchards Community Church is my friend Brenton Laidler, who you approved to. Very excited about what that is going to look like moving forward. Couple more giveaways. Are you ready? Are you ready? Feeling loose? Andrew asked you to pray for him because he has some anxiety about the relationship series called Real Love. Con Chapman, I said, would you like a shirt or a hat? Shirt. Would you like Sour Patch, Hershey's, or Reese's? That is the only correct answer. Thank you. I felt when they're real close, it works out really good. Okay, and one more. What else did we have? Mentioned the fact that students get up at 8 o'clock to come to a Bible study on Sunday mornings, which is exactly right. That's what it is. That wasn't the question I was going to ask, but you are paying attention, and that is fantastic. And so there'll be a prize or a cash equivalent prize for you later. In that study, what book of the Bible are they studying now? I heard, was it right here? Was it Nicole? Shirt or hat? Shirt and candy of choice? That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Brad. That's a bad throw. Oh, yes! Nice! You guys with your catching skills are really, really good. Special treat for us now. Oh, she made it to the stage. Our friend Colleen Merrill is going to share the financial. Woo! Give it up for Colleen. Share some financial perspective. Thank you so much, Colleen. That's why you could catch.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm here to share the dollars behind all this. The guys have shared their what's been going on in 2025, all that was taking place, and I'm here to show you the dollars that it took to get there. A lot of you remember last year we hit our million. We had $1 million budget for 2025. This was the first time, and me of little faith, that number was just a little bit too big. But the council, these guys of wisdom, felt everybody that had requested the funds, they were legitimate. And they said, hey, if this is what God wants us to do, he's going to provide. And God provided. God totally provided. Yeah. If you look in the middle of your report, we've got the financial report all there, but overall our total revenues for the year were $1,250,000 with total expenses of $1,148,000. So we actually had a surplus there of almost $108,000. The total revenues, all of that includes not just the contributions, it's also monies that come in for registrations, money that comes into benevolence, money that comes in for designated funds, That's another thing that we'll be taking a look at. So that's the total revenues and total expenses for the whole year. If we look at the 2025 budget, so our budget was set at $1,024,000. That's where it was just over the $1 million mark. Our deposits, contributions to the budget were $1,067,706 with some miscellaneous income there. So we actually surpassed the budget that was presented for 2025. So we were $43,000 above income for the year. Yeah, I was like, thank you, Lord. Actually, too, this was 160,000 giving above the budget from the previous year. We also had an increase, the guys have talked about a lot of growth. We had an increase in giving units too, from 294 to 332, which is 38 additional giving units. So that growth has really been showing here. The actual expenses to the budget, again, we had that $1,024,000, were $963,000. Yes? A giving unit would be like a family unit, so you and your wife would be one unit. So expenses to the budget were $963,000, so we were actually under budget, $61,500. So we had income of over $1 million to the budget and expenses of under $1 million to the budget. Benevolence is another area that's been fun to watch. Benevolence is not part of the actual church budget. These are just funds that come in from people. We've usually taken offering once a year. People will just give to it throughout the year. And Orchards has always been very generous here. We had income of $27,120 and expenses of just over $16,000. So again, this goes to help people within the church, people within the body here, and then we have the Laundry Love outreach in the community that Pat White runs for us. She does an awesome job, a lot of work there. We do have some community support with that, but a lot of that is help within the church body. To look at the year end, I just want to make sure. They didn't tell me they're going to have all this new technology up here, and I had my pencil and paper ready. Okay, to take a look at the year-end cash position, so we do have, as of December 31st, we have $178,000 in restricted designated funds, and those are listed for you and kind of outlined. Somebody brought up the security system earlier. That is listed in there. We have undesignated funds of $313,000, and so those are funds not spoken for at this time, but will be used, of course. And our total cash position is $491,739. So that's where we're looking at our cash right now. And again, we've been able to run the year with no debt. So that's always a biggie in my book, anyway. As we look to 2026, our budget is looking at $49,603. Sorry, I'm getting my commas all mixed up. This is a little bit of an increase, and a lot of it is, James had shared yesterday and has shared a little bit about the growth that we've been experiencing and some of the things that we're looking at. The council has decided to set $120,000 of that is to be setting aside towards our building fund. And just preparing, we have a consultant that we've been meeting with, but just in preparing for the future and preparing for future growth, to be able to start setting those funds aside in building. So we will be setting aside $10,000 a month, $120,000 for the year. So that's where you see most of that increase in the 2026 budget. Any questions? Yes?
Did Andrew go over this year?
Actually, he did. Sorry. Wow. Yes. Those young adults are still eating quite a bit. Anyway, yeah, yeah. So he gets budget money for that. He gets money. Anyway, anyway, I just want to thank you all. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your prayers. You really are making an investment in eternity, and it's really an honor and a privilege to be serving here. Thank you.
Here's a fun question. Could we have church without Colleen? No. We know where we are. Hey, couple fun things to look at there. And just as Colleen mentioned, the total budget request for 2026 ended up being quite a bit higher. Again, a lot of that money that we're going to designate just to keep in a building fund, knowing we're going to move forward. How much were we going to put in that building fund? Was it Larry? Did you? Somebody near Larry. We're pointing. Rick got it? Fantastic. Rick, would you like a shirt or a hat? A hat. And Reese's, Hershey's, or Sour Patch? Okay. How do we feel about this? I think the candy can get there. If I break the cross, this is going to be so bad. Oh, that's bad. That's bad. But we didn't lose an eye. So, okay, there we go. Yeah, I think carrying the hat would be a smart idea. Jody, thank you for pitching in and helping out there. And what about this one? Okay, you got to answer quick on this. How much total debt does OCC have? None is your correct answer. I don't know who won. Michelle says I won. Do you think we're going to go here? Okay. Hat, shirt, candy. That was a decent throw. That was not. Oh, I had one more. This one was fun because John asked the question. We had an increase in giving units. How many giving units did we increase? Susan, did you? 38 increase in giving units. Hat, shirt, candy. You darn Skippy. Thank you for the assist. That was really nice. Woo. There's not a chance. Oh, there we go. All right, that is all the, well, we have more stuff, come ply me for it later. That's all the questions we had, but want to give you an opportunity, if you have questions, to ask of me or anybody on staff, Colleen, or any questions for Colleen. Anything that we can, and again, if this isn't a format where you feel comfortable asking, please do seek us out or send it in midpoint. We want to ask, but any questions you can think of based on what we're talking about tonight? Well, hi. My peripheral vision didn't work over that far. I don't know the answer to that.
She said, is there a reason that we don't use TikTok? I am not really on TikTok. I don't really do a whole lot of social media. Student ministry is on TikTok, but as a church, we don't. So right now, it's just student ministry. So it's my fault.
Like an answer where you take the, yeah, that was me.
It's what happens when you're, the guy who's in charge of it is not in his 20s. So. Or late 30s.
Keep rounding up. Very good. Other questions? Miss Judy. Yeah, we don't carry that. No. Judy asked a great question. She said, with the growth that God has given, she's concerned about just the welfare of the staff.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. That's, here's where I want to not be ridiculous. It is a huge blessing to be on staff at this church. I've been around for a while now, and the things God is doing here and the health and the camaraderie on the team, it is such a blessing. When I served on Young Life staff, there were a bunch of guys who didn't raise the money that they needed to get paid. And I remember we were at a conference, and one of the guys said, man, I love being in ministry so much. I love this job. I'd do it for free. And everybody said, you are. Nobody's paying you. We are blessed. We are so blessed through the stewardship, the generosity of this body. Ministry's hard. It's a calling that God places on your life. But if he calls you to it, I don't know if there's anything else you can do. And so we try really hard to be careful about making sure we're not wearing anybody out. We try very, very hard. As we made the move from 2 services on Sunday to 3 services, 4 services overall, that was tough on all the staff guys and tough on support staff as well. God has really blessed us in that. Again, we've seen enormous growth in that. I don't know that we can add another service. I just don't think that there's a possibility of doing that. Sometimes we talk to you guys and you have phenomenal ideas and we want to hear the ideas. Well, hey, why don't we try this thing or why don't we try that thing? And the reality is, like, none of my guys are sitting around twiddling their thumbs. They are working. They're busy. They're joining God in this work. And so a lot of times if a new ministry might pop up or something, this is the spot where we'd go, hey, if you have this idea for ministry, that might be something God's calling you to do. We can oversee it for you, but this may be where you jump in and do ministry. And we've started new ministries that way. A lot of the stuff that's happening in men's ministry, some of the women's stuff starts that way. So I appreciate the concern very, very much. I don't think, and I'm speaking for the staff on this, we're at the spot where we're over, where we're tipping over, but I appreciate the concern. My wife watches out for me on that and tries to help me in that. I struggle being a workaholic. I'm real great about asking the guys to turn in staff reports so I know how many hours they're working and then my wife will ask me, well, who are you reporting to? How many hours are you working? And I'm like, well, I see what had happened. So thank you for being concerned for us. And right now I would say God has got us exactly where we're supposed to be. I don't know moving forward what that would look like. I will say this. We didn't really give all the numbers for the budget in there. You can see all those, and Colleen can present those to you. There was also a $55,000 kind of placeholder in that budget to add a potential new staff person this year. As we grow, we know that we're kind of at capacity with the things that we can do on staff. And so we were thinking, potentially if we were going to do a simulcast church location, you can do that with a flat screen, of somebody preaching, but you have to have live worship for that. And so we thought, well, maybe we'd hire a worship leader to go do that. We've augmented some tech responsibilities with that. Like there are things we're trying to do to make sure we're not overburdening anyone, but that's just something we always have to be cognizant of. So thanks for asking, Judy. Other questions that might be easier than that one? They don't have to be that easy. Wes is up here. Yeah. Lee asked when we might expect to start hearing something from the consulting group that we're working with. We do have our next meeting set for March 5th. This is kind of a neat opportunity for us. This is a nationally based consulting firm out of Oklahoma, I believe, that's come out to visit us. And they'll come again March 5th. And again, kind of just present some preliminary, here's what we think could happen here on campus. We are not under any obligation right now to do the things that they're suggesting. But again, we've just kind of stubbed our toe on stuff. And some of you who've been around for a while are aware of some of this. You come up with this idea, I think that'd be a great idea. And we've started pitching around ideas. We ought to do this with the chapel, or we ought to do this here in the worship center. And the next thing you know, you go, well, but if we did this, it would create this. And then if we did that, it would create this. And we just kind of go, oh gosh, and we throw up our hands and we stop. We don't want to do that. We know that we need to move forward. We've made so many plans, sitting in meetings and said, well, we ought to do this over at the chapel. The chapel is a very old building. And if we would start messing with it in any way whatsoever, the restrooms aren't up to code. We'd have to put in a much longer ramp. And if we ever invited anybody in to start poking around over there, we'd have to probably update the entire facility. Cost us millions of dollars to put a bathroom in, So we know some of the issues we're running into, and that's why we're trying to look for new solutions, new things that might help us again, augment the facility. We're not, at the present moment, we just don't even haven't heard any ideas from them. As we hear ideas, we will make sure that we're sharing them with everybody. Great question. Again, like I said earlier, I can't really answer it because we haven't had a single suggestion yet. Other questions for these guys and gals? Don't sit on them. Anything you got that you want that you want to know, we want to be an open book on this stuff. A lot of the finance stuff we only talk about one time a year. And the weird thing is we're not sitting here trying to pat ourselves on the back. God gets the glory. But like we'd open the books up to you anytime because we are so thrilled with the stewardship that this church has. God has been so good to us, so generous. And I mean, like we want to brag on God. And when you look at numbers like Colleen was presenting today, God gets all the glory on that. So if you ever have any questions about that, we are an open book on those kind of things. Again, you can contact the office, contact me or any of the ministry council guys, staff guys directly, or send questions into the podcast. We love that. When I say that I love you guys, know that I mean it. We are so blessed. I'm going to pray. We had a long night for you guys tonight. Stick around if you need to. Swap a T-shirt if you need to, size-wise. Or if you just want to come beg for candy and say hello, come on up. Let me pray. Daddy, thank you for a business meeting. Thank you for the opportunity that every time that I've been involved in this, it hasn't felt so much like a duty, but like a celebration of what you're doing here in your church. So God, help us to continue to join you in that work. You get all the credit. You get all the praise. You get all the glory because you're so worthy. So God, we just want to be used by you to point people to your Son, to help people become disciple makers. God, continue to use us at OCC. We love you, we praise you, and I thank you for these folks who make up your church. We ask all that in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you guys. Have a great night. Appreciate you. Thank you, Miss Sue. I appreciate that.